And welcome to Legacy After the Locker Room. I'm your host, Kayla Brad. I'm here tonight with professional basketball alumni, might I add, 10-year professional basketball alumni, Travis Reed. Good evening, Travis.
All right, thank you for having me, Kay. I really appreciate you bringing me on.
Absolutely. I'm recording this live from Nashville, Tennessee, where I'm on vacation with my children and getting ready to go out for barbecue at Johnny Cash. So
Sounds
looking
good.
looking forward to the next 30 minutes. Travis, tell us a little bit about what sports looked like for you growing up. Did you always play basketball?
My father, coached me, and he coached me through all sports. I played basketball, football, baseball, even played soccer. He was my coach, through all of those sports growing up. Um, I was a military kid. My father was in the Air Force the first 8 years of my life. We were stationed in North Dakota, Sacramento, some other places as well. Um, like we moved to when he retired from the military, we moved back to South Central LA where I was born at. And he became my coach, and we kind of focused a little bit more on basketball as the years got older.
And so when did you realize you were really good at basketball, Travis?
I would say probably like around 9 years old. I thought it was pretty good. My dad always played. I was always kind of a bigger kid, and so like he always played me two ages up. So when I was 8, 9 years old, I was playing against 12-year-old kids.
All right.
And so like, I once I was able to handle my own against them, I realized that I think I'm pretty good at this.
So I love that. I'm thinking of one of my good friends, Sam Hill, who played in the NBA, and he runs camps all over now for high school kids to have their shootouts so that the scouts can come watch them. Tell us a little bit, Travis, about going to college and playing basketball. What did that look like?
Well, for me, I went to UCLA. I was a part of the number one recruiting class in the country coming in, myself, excuse me, former NBA player Baron Davis, former NBA player Earl Watson, Rico Hines, Ty Ramazar, Billy Knight. So, yeah, like I said, it was an experience because UCLA was such a big school, much tradition, so many great players. It was just like I said, such a blessing for me to play at that, at that, prestigious, school.
Absolutely. And playing at that school gave you the experience and the notoriety to be able to take your skills overseas for 10
Hmm.
years. Tell
Hmm.
us a little bit. I mean, you have just a slew of honors, MVP honors. Do you mind just taking the listeners through the countries that you were blessed to play for and some of those honors you received?
Well, that's a long list,
I know.
but pretty much I started my career in Bogota, Colombia. That was the first place I went when I graduated college. So I played there for about 2 months. Came back home. Went to Poland. Uh, didn't make it. Like my first year was my struggle year, to be honest. I didn't make the team in Poland. Went to France. Didn't make the team in France. Went to Belgium. Didn't make the team in Belgium. Finally got on in Holland. Pretty much that was going to be my last stop. I was like, look, if I don't make it this, I'm going home and being a teacher or something. Um, so like it was like I said, I got on the team in Holland. I played 4 years in Holland. I won MVP twice, 1 year statistical MVP, 1 year just MVP of the league. Won a championship in the league, went to the finals a couple times. Uh, Went to Estonia after that for a couple years. Played in Estonia, was the MVP of the Estonian league. Um, was the MVP of the Baltic League. Was also an all star, like they call it a FIBA Cup All Star. So like the best players in the FIBA Cup go to the All Star game in Cyprus. So I got to play against NBA players like future NBA players like Marcus Gasol and things like that. So played in Estonia for about 3 years. I played in Germany for a year. That was my last year in Europe. Also played in Australia for a couple years. Now that's where I finished at. I made all league first team, both years, and had a wonderful time in Australia. It was that was the only place where they spoke like English, but their version of English.
So it's amazing to me because you've mentioned literally half the world. And I knew you grew up in a military household, so maybe you grew up in a home where you were blessed that you spoke more than one language. Did you grow up multilingual, or how did you function traveling all over the world if English was your primary language?
Pretty much, I learned how to point. you know. And I learned how to say chicken in like all every country. Like pollo in Colombia. Whatever Kana LA in Estonia, whatever it was in Holland. I learned how to say chicken in every country.
So I don't mean to laugh because it's not funny, but Travis, I work with a lot of college, high level college athletes, right? And
Mhm.
I know that they get on a bus or they get on a plane. They have no idea where their luggage is. They don't know what room they're going into a hotel. Like they just, hop on something, hop off, and all their stuff just magically appears.
Mhm.
So to go from that in college to traveling the world just blows me away, number
Mhm.
one. And I hope that we can spend some time learning about some of the lessons that you learned and, advice that you have for other athletes who are going to play or who are playing overseas. The world is abuzz with everything that happened to Brittany Grines, right? So, I think there's plenty to talk about there. But before we do that, I'm dying to know, Travis, of all of those teams, which one was your favorite? Which country was your favorite? And who was your favorite coach? I got to ask.
Well, I had some good coaches, some bad coaches. Um, I don't want to make anybody mad as far as like my choice, but I would say my funnest coach, because he was just easy to talk to, was Neil Tweedy in Australia, in Rockhampton. That was really like my fun place, even though my craziest coach was in Holland, Tone Boat. Over there, he was super hard, but I love the fans in the city so much that it made me want to keep coming back for more and staying for more. But yeah, I would say the funnest place overall. I don't know. That's a good. I would say the people in Holland was great. The atmosphere in Estonia was great because a lot of people had a lot of fun. And Australia was fun because, like I said, everybody spoke English. Now, drinking was different levels of all three.
I can only imagine. Travis, if it's okay with you, I really want to dedicate some time to the nuggets that you have to share with people who are going overseas or athletes who are currently playing overseas. I
Mhm.
also want to give you some time to talk about what you're doing now and how you're helping these athletes. Before we do, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a quick break to shout out our sponsor, okay?
Mhm.
So, folks, I do want to take a moment and most importantly, thank our listeners. Thank the Legacy After the Locker Room community, whether you're watching this live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, or maybe you're catching it once it drops to all of the podcast streams and you're driving to work or doing the dishes. Thank you. Thank you. This is all about creating hope and possibility through sports. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Dugout Mugs. And for all of our baseball fans out there, use code Kayla30 and save 30% at checkout. Travis, if you don't mind, I want to go right back to you. And I want to talk to you. Number one, I guess I kind of want to say, do you have a couple of pieces of wisdom for us, some golden nuggets that you can share?
Oh yeah, about overseas life, I can tell you the ins and outs of how I live. Like different people have different things. So let's just say for myself, this is how I lived. I had a routine. That's the main thing for me. Always have a routine for whatever it is that you're doing. Um, what I did, I would get up in the morning. Um, I would go to the gym. Go to like the weight room, lift weights, go to the basketball gym, shoot, come back, ice my body, take a nap, whatever the case is, relax, and then get ready for the practice at night, and then I would do it all over again the next day. And for entertainment, for me, all I needed was like a mall just to kind of walk around, a movie theater, uh, and somewhere to hang out at night. I didn't really need too much for myself. Um, as if I gave any advice to the future athletes that's going overseas, just stay in a routine. I think what happens with a lot of players is that they don't really know they have so much time on their hands when they go to Europe. I don't think they really know what to do with themselves. But if you stay with a routine, like you get up, you work out, come back, you ice, you rest, you get ready for practice, do the same thing over and over again. I think you'll be good, and then it'll make the time go much faster while you're over there in Europe, or wherever you are, Europe, China, Australia. I was, like I said, all over, but I had my routine in every single country, and I had to learn that from my first year, because my first year I thought, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I need some things to do. Please help me. But after my second year, I kind of learned how to do things, and just learned how to, like I said, have a routine, and learned how to just function my life. I kept my life in Europe. That was my life at the time. I didn't think about the states as much. I felt like when I get back to the States, that'll be my life. But when I'm in Europe, that's my life. That's my day. That's my day-to-day life.
So, Travis, I think it's so funny because I'm picturing big, tall Travis Reed walking around the mall, knowing there aren't any clothes or any shoes probably that fit you, thinking
No.
about you sitting in a movie theater scrunched up, trying to tuck your knees in. Tell tell our listeners, Travis, how tall you are.
I'm actually 6'7" with shoes off, 6'8" with shoes on.
So, folks, if you can imagine, just the idea of clothing shopping, shoe shopping, or going to the movies in Europe, much less transportation. It makes me laugh. So I think that was one of the best parts of my day, Travis, just imagining that.
That's very true. I wasn't buying clothes. I was just more just walking around just to kind of get out the house, and things like that. Walk around the city, the mall. Like I said, the mall was always in the city. So I would just do that just to kind of be around people and things like that.
Listen, great way to save money, right? Shop at stores where nothing fits.
Exactly. I was never worried about clothes and like, oh man, I need to do this. Any kind of clothes, if I ever got any, would just be from the team. That was it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we talked about having a routine, Travis. Do you have any other wisdom that you would share with people going to play overseas?
Um, like I said, there's so much that could happen over there. I would just say to keep your eyes on the prize. It could be something with money. It could be something with the team isn't paying, or you're not living in the best conditions. Try to keep your eyes on the prize. Keep your eyes on the season, and keep it going. I don't live in any conditions. I'm not saying that, because you have to live to a certain standard if they want you to play at the best you can play. But just keep your eyes focused on what you're there to do. You're there to play. You're there to get the money so you can advance yourself and be able to take care of yourself as well as your family or future family, and move on to the next thing.
So, Travis, the whole thing with Brittany Griner and her detainment and now her prison sentence, does that surprise you at all?
Yes, just because like the fact that she had so much, so many years. I mean, 9 years for like something so small. It was really surprising. I think obviously it was a statement by Russia, because obviously they're going through what they're going through. Some Russia have tension, So they, oh, we're going to show the big, big bad American. She can't get away with this little infraction. So we're going to punish her just to show the United States a lesson, And I think it's really unfortunate for Brittany Griner to be kind of not, let's say, a pawn in the big political game. What's going on with this whole situation?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I just want to say for anybody listening, WNBA fans out there, Brittany, my prayers are with you. And my fan support is with you. And on behalf of Sports Philanthropy Network and many of the people that I'm associated with, we're standing behind you. You're not forgotten. You're not alone. The community of basketball lovers is there holding hands and locking elbows with you, Brittany. So if you
Hmm.
hear
Hmm.
this, just know you are remembered and you are not forgotten. Um, yeah, Travis, I was really curious about your thoughts on that. Like I said, I couldn't agree with you more. It's frankly disgusting.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Good lesson to be learned though. You travel a lot overseas, you learn what not to take into an airport.
No, like obviously it's been a situation where like it's maybe been more and more lately. But yeah, like for me, I didn't carry anything at all for them to even think about stopping me for, and I still got, searched and things like that all the time. Because imagine you're going overseas, you're going overseas for basically 10 months.
Yeah.
And so like that's your life, for 10 months. So how much can you fit in a bag or two bags for 10 months? You fit in everything in there. And so I think that, people who do certain things, uh, I would say don't bring that to even attempt to bring that on the plane. I know it's tempting to, but like I would say, whatever you need to carry that's special, try to put it in the undercarriage to where like, they can't, uh, like they won't stop you in the airport like Brittany Griner, that
Yeah.
happened to her. So.
Yeah, great, great, great. Travis, let's talk a little bit. This came from somewhere. These questions that I'm asking you, they came from somewhere, and that's your experience playing 10 years professional basketball overseas. 10 years pass, it's time you realize, time to, sort of put up the shoes, walk away from the locker room.
Mhm.
What did life look like as you sort of transitioned out of professional sports?
Oh, I can honestly say, Kay, that it was really really hard for me. It was extremely hard. I mean, imagine if you're a doctor for 28 years. I started playing basketball when I was 5. I ended when I was 33. So that's 28 years of my life that I was, playing sports. And so when I retired, it was a struggle for me. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was figuring out my whole life, trying to figure out like what am I besides sports, and it was hard. I think that, um, I'll be honest with you. Like I was drinking and things like that, and just it was just really really hard transition for me to make that transition from athlete to non-athlete, especially in the beginning. Now I'm blessed to be where I'm at now, to where I know, some things that I want to do and some things I need to expand on as, besides sports. But for me, in the beginning, it was a struggle. And at that time, my son was young. He was about 3 years old at the time. And he needed me to be strong, in order to get over everything that I had to get over and go through.
Yeah. So, Travis, first of all, I want to say thank you for being vulnerable and being transparent, especially with the drinking. Um, you know this in the world that you're in, and I know this in the world I am. I frequently hear stories like that more often than I don't.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
struggle is very real. That sense of loss is definitely a grieving process that's hard to cope with. So I want to say thank you because I believe in your vulnerability. It will help other people. So hindsight is 2020. Looking back, would you have advice for people coming back after playing overseas?
Yes, my advice would be have a plan of what you're going to do after. I think as athletes, we think we're immortal and we think we're going to play forever. To be honest, I thought I was going to play 20 years overseas, especially when I got my rhythm going. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't God's plan for me. And I would say, like for me, the biggest thing I would have done different in my time of playing, I would have had some started to do something, whatever it is that I'll be passionate about for my next transition after, because you never know. You never know what's going to end. I mean, I was at my peak 6 years in, making the most money I ever made in my life, and then I got injured. I had a stress fracture in my shin, and then I got another stress fracture in my other shin from rehabbing the shin that I was doing. And then I got injured right before the season, and I missed most of a year because I was rehabbing my leg, and I had to wait for my bone to heal because it almost got broken or cracked. But luckily, I still have a steel plate in both my legs to this day. And so like that's the only reason my bone didn't just shatter on my shin. So um, yeah, like I missed a year. Like I said, I wish I would have started then. To figure out, okay, well, this is like something that's unfortunate, and realize that I'm immortal. I'm not immortal. I'm not gonna play for this amount of time. After that, the funny thing is the money never was the same. It was still money, obviously, but not the money I was making at my peak. So just learning the lessons of that, I would tell anybody that have a plan. And I don't care if you 3 years in, 5 years in, start to think about what it is that you want to do that makes you passionate for the next thing after.
Yeah, I love that, and it resonates with me so much because I think people have a perception of the athlete life and living in $4 million houses after retirement.
Hmm.
Frankly, that's not life after sports for a lot of professional athletes. In fact, I know athletes who had lived out of cars after retirement, athletes who lost everything, including their spouse,
Hmm.
including their kids, right?
Hmm.
So, speaking about these things and being honest with them, we need to talk about that. I love your concept of having a plan for what you're going to do after you retire, sort of that athlete transition, because I think so many men and women who play sports end up in these sort of miserable jobs, either sitting in a cubicle or trying to sell some little widget that they couldn't care less about. Did you have any of those jobs where it was just like, I don't want to do this forever?
Oh God, yes, yes. I had a job I won't talk about on air. You have to really, really know me. The first job I had, but I was that. I worked at Enterprise. That was like my first, like quote unquote, salary job. So trust me, I know about the salesman, transition to where like, people will come in. I had Enterprise at the time. You had to be face shaven, no facial hair. So you only can have like not even a mustache really. So I had a baby face with a suit on, sweating in the, vacuuming cars with a suit on at Enterprise, for a couple of years just to try to make ends meet. So trust me, it was a situation I had to learn. Okay, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Probably not. Um, so I had to go through a couple of jobs to get to where I'm at now, to where I've been successful. But yeah, I know about that life of like trying to sell stuff and
Yeah.
salesman, all that stuff.
And by the way, there is no shame in the game. There
Yes.
is, if you feel called to sell a widget or to vacuum out cars,
Yeah.
by all means, that's an honest living. But when you're working from someone for someone else and it's just do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, be here, be there, you lose a lot of freedom that you sort of had. So I think it's great that you share the enterprise. Um, I can
No,
only
definitely.
I can only
Definitely.
imagine a 6'8" man vacuuming out a little Ford Escort or
Yeah.
Kia or
No, no. Imagine the 6'8" guy picking people up And my old boss used to do this to me as a joke. She would put me in a Mini Cooper
Oh
as a joke.
gosh.
And so I have to go pick up a customer in a Mini Cooper. So, they would see me and I would unfold out of the Mini Cooper. And so she used to take pictures all the time and joke like, yeah, you keep messing with me. That's going to be your car. You pick up customers. And,
Big
yeah,
bad Travis Reed.
yeah. So for me, like I respect everybody who worked at Enterprise because you really, really work hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, I respect the workforce. That was like my first kind of introduction. Like, whoa, this is real, and okay, you have to work really hard. I have no complaints on what I used to work out on.
Gosh, oh my gosh. So Travis, we have about 5 minutes left.
Mhm.
Let's talk about kind of pushing your way, maybe pushing that car at Enterprise down the road into something new. Tell our listeners what Travis Reed is doing to create hope and possibility through sports today.
Well, pretty much, I would say it's through my podcast, An Athlete's Journey. Um, you can find that on iHeart also on Spotify. Pretty much my podcast. What happened? It started because my son asked me. He had my overseas jersey on. He said, "Dad, how was your overseas life?" And I said, "Son, that's a long and complicated answer." And at the time, I was dealing with something. My best friend from college just passed away because one of the reasons it was hard for him to make that transition from uh, that athlete's life, to regular life. And some things came up for him, and he obviously passed away at a young age. And so for me, I wanted to tell my story to the people. People always ask me how I was overseas, and so I started with a podcast called Travis Reed, A Basketball Life. You can still find that on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and things like that. And people love that so much that they said that, Travis, I want to, share my journey, share my stories with you. And so I started the show, An Athlete's Journey, and started interviewing my old friends from overseas and just talking about their ups, their downs, how they started, where they were at their peak. And for me, the most important thing was what happens after basketball, because everybody's like, praising you, patting you on your back when you're playing. But what happens when the lights turn out, you know? Um, it's like a different life. And so many of us struggle at it. And so for me, I told myself if I can help one other athlete, kind of get through the struggles of that, I'm doing my job. And so that's pretty much the main thing, I'm doing to try to help the future athletes, college, going to overseas currently, the next generation of kids coming up. Um, that's what I'm always looking for, always looking to better their, like, learning from mistakes so they don't make the same mistakes I did, or that my guest did.
Travis, thank you for sharing that, and especially thank you for sharing about your friend and how that sort of was the impetus for doing what you're doing. I can only imagine.
Hmm.
But you talk about encouraging the people who are coming in after you. And I have a heart for that, Travis. I ask every guest on Legacy After the Locker Room to partner with me for my charity of choice, which is Special Olympics.
Hmm.
Travis, can we count on you for an autograph donation?
Oh yes, whatever you need, definitely 2 thumbs up.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Um, we have about a minute left, Travis. I want to give you that time to thank the people that you need to thank and to give your parting words of wisdom.
All right. Well, I just want to thank, obviously, the people that believe that work. Who, that's where I'm on. My partner, my co-host on one of my shows, Sam, um, and obviously everybody who got me to this point, family, friends, my little son, little Travis, that got me to this point where I'm at now, trying to help more people, and the future people that's helped me, all my guests, all the people that's hopefully coming on my show. So yeah, thank you. And my words of wisdom is, like I said, just keep growing, keep grinding.
I love it. Keep growing, keep grinding. Folks, I'm sure listening to this podcast, being inspired by Travis, that's what this is all about. I'm sure you're looking to connect or follow him. So let me just put this up for anybody watching the live stream. Listen carefully, get out your phone if you're going to type it in. Look for Travis on Instagram. You can follow him at Travis W. Reed. That's the same thing on Facebook, Travis W. Reed. And if you're looking to connect for business purposes, Travis Reed on LinkedIn. So Travis W. Reed on Insta and Facebook, Travis Reed on LinkedIn. Folks, my name is Kayla Bradham, host of Legacy After the Locker Room podcast, thanking you for joining us here tonight with pro basketball alumni Travis Reed, remembering you, reminding you to live your legacy. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.